We've already driven the Mahindra Alturas G4 before and the first impression was overwhelmingly positive. But just like you, we are also immensely curious to find out how Mahindra's grandest SUV fares in light of its competition. That competition comes from these two: the recently refreshed Ford Endeavour and the ever popular Toyota Fortuner. Welcome to the big battle of the heavyweights. In India, the size of your vehicle determines right of way, and when you're behind the wheel of any of these hulking SUVs, you'll find traffic parting to let you through. You'll be seeing these SUVs at length over the course of this video, so do remember to let us know in the comment section below which is your pick when talking design and styling. To my eyes, the Mahindra Alturas G4 is a smart and well turned out SUV, but it's not quite got the road presence of an Endeavour or Fortuner. In comparison, the refreshed ND that's best identified by its new diamond cut alloy wheels looks butch, bold and almost armor protected. The second gen Fortuner is quite rad as SUVs go, and the beak-like nose, slim headlights and kinked glasshouse do give it a unique visual identity. Before we talk of the interiors, you should know that all three SUVs sit high off the ground and it's a step up into their cabins. Oddly enough, a footboard is not standard fit but a must-have paid accessory on the Alturas G4. It's a bit of a trek into the Alturas G4's cabin, but once you're inside, you like what you see. There are a lot of high-end bits such as this quilted leather on the dashboard and seats, this knurled dials for the audio system and climate control, and in general, the look and feel of things is of a proper luxury car. There's plenty to like about the Ford Endeavour's cabin too. That solid thunk on door shut really distinguishes the Ford Endeavour. Tough build quality aside, the general ambience in the cabin is also rather nice. The dashboard is neatly styled, it's functional, places everything where you want it to be, it's well finished, the seats are comfortable, and honestly, this is a place you can spend long hours in with ease. After spending time in an Endeavour or Alturas, you'll be quite critical of what you get in the Fortuner. The Toyota Fortuner is an expensive SUV in absolute terms, but the sad thing is you don't get the feel that you've got your money's worth when you step inside the cabin. Yes, there are a few soft touch plastics, there's this leather lining on the dashboard and even this faux wood finish on the steering wheel. But the whole look and feel of things just isn't premium enough. Take these buttons for instance, they just don't feel rich. The roof lining is from a much cheaper car and even the touchscreen just feels outdated by today's standards. The Fortuner comes back strong with its comfy middle row. The Toyota Fortuner's middle row seat is firm but it is also supportive. You also have the option to slide the seats back and forth to free up room for the third row passengers, and you can also recline the backrest to your comfort. You sit at a nice position and frankly there's no shortage of space either. It's a bit of a mixed bag when talking of the ND's middle row. The Ford Endeavour's middle row has its hits and misses. For one, the seat is really well padded, but if there's one thing that makes a world of a difference to the Endeavour's cabin, it's the panoramic sunroof. It makes the cabin feel really nice and airy and just distinguishes the Endeavour. But on the flip side, to accommodate the mechanism for the sunroof, the roof lining is lower than it should be, and as you can tell, headroom is just about enough for me, and that could be a problem for taller occupants. In comparison, the Alturas offers a plusher middle seat experience. The Alturas offers a great sense of space in the middle row. It's easily the widest of the three SUVs, and even though you can't slide the seat back and forward, as you can tell, there's more than enough legroom for me. The seats themselves are also really good and very well cushioned. And what of the third rows? Each of these SUVs have their own set of idiosyncrasies. Let's start with the Endeavour. Access to its last row seats is outright cumbersome. That's because the middle row seats merely slide forward and don't tumble forward as on the others, in effect leaving a small aperture that you have to work your way through. And there's more. The Endeavour's third row seat is not even intended for adults. Just look at this, my knees are pointed skywards, I have absolutely no room. The backrest is upright. This is not a place you want to spend any amount of time. In fact, even children won't be happy here for too long. Access to the Altura's third row is relatively easier, but the overall experience isn't great. You're virtually sat on the floor in the third row of the Alturas G4. This knees up seating position is just not comfortable. What makes matters worse is the headroom is in short supply and your view out is really limited. What you really get to see is this big black mass of plastic. It's really the Fortuner with the best third row, relatively speaking, of course. As you can tell, the Fortuner third row is not a place for large adults like me, but it is still the most usable of the third rows of the three SUVs with us. The seating position is tolerable, and what also helps comfort level to an extent is the option to recline the backrest. The Fortuner also offers best access to the third row with a single touch tumble mechanism for the middle row seats. Over to the goodies on offer. In a nutshell, it's a close match between the Alturas and Endeavour that offer the most goodies, while the Fortuner is significantly down on frills. The Alturas distinguishes itself with its class-leading 9 airbags, driver's seat memory, ventilated front seats, electronic parking brake, and a useful 360-degree parking camera. While the Ford misses out on the last feature, it's the only one with auto parking that can steer the SUV into a detected parking spot. Gesture control boot release is common to the Mahindra and Ford SUVs, as is a sunroof, though the Endeavour goes one up with its larger panoramic unit. Configurable ambient lighting is also unique to the Ford. In the battle of the touchscreens, once again it's a close match between the Alturas and Endeavour's 8-inch units. Both offer Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support, but if asked to pick, it's the Endeavour system that's nicer to use. The Fortuner's touchscreen looks aftermarket and is down on connectivity options as well. Time to get down to the business of driving these SUVs. The Mahindra Alturas 2.2-litre diesel engine is the smallest in this comparison, but you'd be wrong to think it's not up to the job. The highlight of the Alturas G4 has got to be the refinement. The engine is just so quiet and smooth. It really gives you that luxury experience. Even the power delivery, for that matter, is nice and smooth. It doesn't give you that punch that you expect from a large SUV like this, but the fact is that the Alturas is deceptively quick. The Mahindra is just milliseconds slower than the Endeavour 3.2's class-best acceleration and in-gear times. And that's despite the Altura's Mercedes-sourced 7-speed gearbox not being the quickest on the draw. Speaking of which, don't the gear lever buttons for manual shifts just look outdated? While the Ford Endeavour is available with a 160 horsepower 2.2-litre diesel engine, only the 200 horsepower 3.2-litre 5-cylinder engine version like the one with us gets you the combo of an automatic transmission and 4-wheel drive. We've already established that the Ford is the fastest of the three SUVs, and you really experience that power. Performance is fine, there's good access to power at all times, and the Endeavour just feels ready and willing to go. But when you're going for it, the gearbox will come across as a bit slow, and the engine should have been quieter too. The Ford Endeavour roars at low speeds. It's not deafeningly loud, but you'd rather the engine kept its calm. Still, it's the Toyota Fortuner's 177 horsepower 2.8-litre diesel engine that's the loudest here. The Toyota Fortuner's diesel engine is the loudest of this trio. It's got this coarse and gravelly note that doesn't quite leave you at any point, and on refinement alone, the Toyota's engine feels decidedly last gen. But performance is rather good. In fact, from behind the wheel, the Toyota Fortuner actually feels the quickest of the three. Initial responses are good, power comes in early, and the power doesn't even taper off higher up the rev band. The Fortuner also has a crucial ingredient that keen drivers will like. The Fortuner is also the only one here with paddle shifters, and they do their bit to add to the driving experience. Over to the other facets of the driving experience, ride and handling. In the everyday grind, you like how light and easy it is to twirl the Alturas G4 steering, but sadly, the lightness stays even at higher speeds. In the corners, the Alturas feels like the big and heavy SUV it is. There's plenty of weight transfer from side to side, but it still does feel quite sure-footed. As for ride quality, however, when you go over a bump or a pothole, there will be a slight shimmy, a slight shake from the Altura's body, and on a broken patch of road, it doesn't quite feel as solidly put together as the Endeavour or the Fortuner. The updated Ford Endeavour on its tweaked suspension makes light work of the rough stuff. The Ford Endeavour completely aces the area of bump absorption. It rounds off low-speed bumps really well and steamrolls high-speed imperfections so well that you don't even need to slow down for them. The best bit, the suspension also goes about its business in an absolutely quiet manner. The marginally softer setup has had an adverse impact on some other aspects of the ND experience. The Ford Endeavour seems very eager around the corners, but the fact is there's just too much SUV to rein in. Also, the steering seems to have been made lighter, and some of that connect from the older pre-facelift Endeavour seems to have been lost in the transition. The Fortuner has its share of hits and misses in ride and handling too. The Toyota Fortuner's suspension comes across as a bit stiff-kneed at low speeds and can't quite smoothen out surface imperfections as well as the others. But when you build the pace, that same stiffness comes handy because it makes the car feel nice and composed, and actually it is the flattest riding of the three SUVs at high speeds. What's also nice is that the steering becomes nice and direct when you're going faster, and it gives a good sense of connection with the car, so you can actually have some fun in the bends in a Fortuner. And how are they off-road? The range-topping versions of the three models come with hill descent control, four-wheel drive and low range. While all three SUVs managed the rocky trail we attempted in 4-low, it was the Fortuner that felt like the mountain goat, clawing its way out of trouble with relative ease. The ND uses its terrain management system to good effect and also comes with the option to lock the rear diff. But its soft suspension also means it rocks about when you don't want it to. On paper, it's the Alturas with the best ground clearance, but the low-set optional footboard takes its toll on the ramp breakover angle, and the departure angle isn't great either. Add up the scores and factor in the prices and things become clearer. At 33.6 lakh rupees, the Fortuner is the most expensive SUV here, though the strong resale value does even things out. Fact is, you can't go wrong with a Fortuner. At the same time, it's also hard to overlook its lesser points of a loud engine and average cabin quality. Ford's Endeavour has been our pick in the past, and it's put up a strong show this time around as well. It's built tough, ride quality is excellent, and the powerful engine also makes it enjoyable to drive. It's pricey at 32.98 lakh rupees, but its extensive feature set does help justify the outlay to an extent. A quieter engine and better third-row comfort would have made the ND hard to beat. If third-row comfort or hardcore off-road ability are deciding factors, the Alturas G4 is not the SUV for you. But to the typical large SUV buyer primarily looking for a luxurious experience, the Alturas is an easy sell. Its rich cabin, excellent overall refinement and lengthy features list give it a decidedly premium air. Sure, there will be many who will scoff at the idea of spending 30.7 lakh rupees on a Mahindra, but it's hard not to see the Alturas as a great value proposition. And if there's one thing Indian buyers like across the board, it's good value.